Hello. You working? Take one. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Hello and welcome to the IBM Planning Analytics Advanced Innovation Collective Operating Expense Application. Today we're going to be doing an introduction of the Planning Analytics workspace and the different portions of the application. So what you're looking at right now is the Planning Analytics workspace. It consists of different workbooks and different folders. So you'll see that we have the Advanced Innovation Collective. So we're going to go ahead and click on that to open it up. From here, we're going to click on Admin or the Admin Workbook. When we open this up, we're then going to be seeing the Admin Workbook. You see if we look up in the top, we have the navigation panel. At the very top, we have the different workbooks for the operating expense application. And within each of the workbooks, admin, analyze, so on, the second tier of navigation buttons are going to be how we navigate to the different worksheets within a given workbook. So for this, we're going to walk through some of the navigation for the navigation panel up top, and then we're going to show you the objects that we have in the different worksheets. So you can see based on the bold and on the home and admin that we're in the admin workbook in the home worksheet. Before this, the home page consists of a video, and we're able to click on this and we'd be able to play it like any other embedded video online. And this actually links to some of the videos that you're going to be watching. So we do have this navigation video we're watching now, as well as a video specific to the admin and the plan workbooks. The other workbooks, the analyze, assume, and report, are all very thin. There's only one cube view to look through. So a video was not necessary for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few of the different objects, as I said. So we're going to click over to the app settings and see how when we click on this, it will move us through the navigation and into a different worksheet. So what you're seeing here is the application settings cube view. And this is actually used for an administration purposes. It's something you need to concern yourself with the actual use of it, but we're using this as an example of navigation. So what you're actually seeing is the application settings cube view, and it's a two-dimensional cube view. So we have items on the rows and then on the columns as well. And what this does is it just stores some of the different information the model needs in order to operate on the back end. And these are some of the items that the administrator will need during rollover and so on. So this is actually a two-way communication, the back end of the model. So in this case, we can go in and select a cell. In this case, I'm centered on current period, 2019-08. So I'm going to type in 2019-09 if we were rolling it over. I hit enter and you can see that it updated that to 2019-09. In this case, you can see that it's green. So once I click the refresh button, you'll see that it then goes to black, and that means that it's written to the system. So with this, there is no navigation within the actual cube view itself. It's all locked in. There's nothing to manipulate. It's just a set view. What we're going to do is now navigate using the buttons up top. So we're going to click on the Analyze navigation button. That'll take us to the Analyze workbook. Again, this brings us to the home page of Analyze. And then we're going to click on the Analyze _ADSO. And this is also a cube view. This cube view is used for looking at the actuals that are brought in from the source system. And in this case, it's a one-way view. We're only able to consume or report on what's in here for validation purposes. But because we're going to be validating this, we do want to have some flexibility in how we consume the data. So in this case, you can see on the rows, we have the GL account dimension. And on the columns, we have the current year subset of the fiscal period. So for planning analytics, we have cubes, and a view is a specific orientation of a cube. The same goes for dimensions. A cube is made up of 2 or more dimensions, and we then have a subset of a dimension, which is just a small set of a dimension, or a limited view, or pardon me, a limited amount of elements in that dimension. So in this case, we have the total GL on the rows, and you can see that we have some of these collapsed. So if you look closely, you can see that there's some pluses and minuses. Pluses and minuses show that we can expand and collapse. If I go down to wage related and click on the plus sign, I'm able to expand that down further. If I click on salary and wages, I can go even deeper until I get all the way down to the child. In this case, we have wages, salary, and so on. I can then also collapse it all the way up to operating expense. And then I can do the same thing over on the columns, which is fiscal period. So if I collapse that and expand it, you can see that I can manipulate in that way. So in this case, we're going to be going through and looking at the data. In this case, if we maybe saw something that wasn't right and we wanted to move deeper into the data to do a little more analysis and see where the numbers weren't lining up with our expectation, we could actually go in and we could click and hold on the GL account and drag it up to the top, over top of the project code in the context up above. And you'll see that it then swaps the two out. So in this case, I have now total GL account in context along with prelim, which is a version for this, and then the amount. And now I can see by project what the total dollars are. In this case, I'm going to want to change it from the total GL to the operating expense. So if I click once, it'll bring up this drop down, and I can either key in a filter, or I could select just with a cursor. In this case, I'm actually going to show you to type it in. I entered in OPER. It brought up a wildcard search of the different ones that contain those characters. So in this case, I'm going to select operating expense, and then I can compare the different project codes by operating expense. So I'd be able to then collapse these to see it at a high level and then drill down as necessary. So I can then compare these values. What I can also do is move up to this blue bar up above. If I click it, this is the snap commands. So this allows me to do different things. So if we hover over, we'll see what each one does. First one being export, so I could actually export this to Excel if I want to do any ad hoc reporting in Excel, any type of analysis there. I could use the snap commands, and this is pretty helpful when you're wanting to do some manipulation of the data. We won't go into this at this point, but that's something that for power users, please take a look at that and some of the other documentation that we have available for you. It's a pretty powerful tool. The next one is save. If we were going to save off a private view, for most of you that won't be available. But for power users, we may enable that option. The next is swap the rows and columns. So in this case, we have project code in the rows and fiscal period in the columns. So clicking on this will swap the two. If I wanted to compare month over month, you can make that a little bit easier. And it really just does depend on the data that you have exposed. What I'll do is actually click that again, and it will undo that. Next is suppress zeros. So in this case, you can see that we do have some zeros out in the out months because we don't have actual values for those. So if I click suppress zeros, I can choose to do it on either rows or columns. In this case, I'll choose columns. When I click OK, you can see that the months without actuals on the very right disappeared because we were suppressing those zeros. It allows us to tighten up the view and see just the values that we're concerned with. So the next you can see we have is refresh, which will refresh the data. We then have a sandbox, if we want to do any sandboxing. Again, that's a more advanced feature beyond just the navigation that we're showing today. That's something that we could have you look at the documentation for. And then finally, we have a change of visualization. What this does is allow you to move from the exploration of the cube view that we have to do some of the different charting. And again, this is an advanced feature for power users. So with that, we're going to let you take a look at that on your own. Okay. And then the next one is just showing or hiding the overview. And a lot of this functionality won't be available to users. So with this, if I moved everything around and say maybe I don't remember quite how it was originally, or I don't want to work through reselecting all of the different subsets of the different dimensions that we're looking at, and I just want it moved back, I can click up on the blue bars up in the left corner. I can click reload book. This will reload the book entirely and bring me back to the home page. So I click that button. It will then bring me back to the home of Analyze. If I click on Analyze ADSO, I then see the cube view arranged as it was before. I have the GL accounts on the rows. I have the project code up in the context. And then I have the zeros are not suppressed. So I do see those. So that's one of the different ways that we have cube views exposed. The next that we're going to take a look at is in order to actually enter some data in. So with this, we're going to navigate over here and we're going to take a look at the OpEx. And for this, we're going to take a look at the OpEx detail. So for this, you can see that we have the operating expense detail. For this, I'm going to be redoing this demonstration, so I'll make sure that we have this lined up. Some of this was changed. It needs to be done for what Abel and I discussed earlier. So with this, we have the same cube view. Once I redo it, you won't be able to see any of that. It will have it all locked, but you will have the ability to change the version. So with that, you'll be able to either do a single click on the selector up in the top left, in which